into my eyes and don't be shy. Feel the music in your blood tonight. Feel the rhythm in my bones. What do you say? I don't know. Nah, I can't hear you out, yeah. Follow through the mellow, I can show you the right moves for you. Move your feet, come on and dance with me. Till that is all you wanna do, eh? When everyone has gone and we are on our own, till then I follow roads that never take me home. But if you find me there, oh, I'll show you where there ain't no lies. Oh, just look in my blue eyes. I can't help it, but for some reason I feel so alive tonight. Just let up, it's alright. We can just dance out all night.
Hello everybody, welcome to Associated Studios Industry Talks with me, Scott Harrison. We do this every Tuesday at 6 p.m. And this one is a pretty special one for me. I have a very good friend of mine and my kindred spirit. The wonderful, amazing, gorgeous, beautiful, talented, I'll write a list of superlatives in the chat later on. It's Sheri Sanders coming all the way from New York. So
not even in New York anymore. I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut. Amazing, yes! Amazing. So we're so excited to have you here, Sheri. And thank you so much for coming and having a talk with us all the way over in the United Kingdom. And you're the first American we've had on the Industry Talks as well. So you've got that honor, which is really great.
It's a privilege, and thank you for saying it. It is an honor. I've been actually trying to get over there for some time. I almost came right when the pandemic hit. So just know that my heart is over there, wanting to come and play.
The second you can manage to come and play, we're going to get you over. So don't worry about that. That's not even.
Yeah. So unbelievable acting and directing and theater coming from over there. So I just want to some of your goodness too.
Well, anyway, so the way that this works for anybody that's not tuned in with us before is that if you're watching this on my Facebook page, then you're going to have to go over to the Associated Studios Facebook page, and you can ask questions in there. If you're watching this on Twitch, you can also just type in Twitch chat. I'm actually viewing both of those at the moment, so you can ask any questions you want for Sheri. And we're going to just basically have a nice big conversation that you can all kind of take part in. That's the idea behind this evening. So Leontine, who is our wonderful, amazing principal, who I think you'll just get on with like a house on fire, says that she's so thankful for you joining in with us. So thank you very much on behalf of all of us at Associated Studios. So I'm just going to launch straight in with a couple of my questions first, if that's all right, Sheri. So you've just released this new copy of your incredible book, Rock The Audition, which I remember buying a copy of, which is why you and I actually got in touch in the first place. I don't know if you remember, but basically I had a student that you worked with at Pace who came and did our MA at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, and basically was like, oh, my teacher at Pace has written this amazing book, you need to read it. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, because I'm a bit of a book nerd. And I remember reading it and I was like, I need to know this person is just so amazing. And that was when I kind of reached out to you, and you were just so warm to begin with and so kind of like engaged, and it was kind of like I could just tell right from the get-go that you were really, really all about the work and about kind of doing really good work. And like, it's very obvious in your new edition that work has really, really evolved. So my first kind of question to you is what is it you actually want people to take away from the work that you've put into this new edition of your book?
Oh my God. First of all, I want to just say I'm just so grateful to be here with you. And thank you. You are beautiful. You are gorgeous. I love your accent. I'm kind of excited to speak to you right now because all of these things are kind of, if I had a tail, it would be wagging, because I'm excited to have these kind of conversations with you. And, the London theater community and the New York community have been so separate. And it's not surprising to me because our theater industry has been so divided all along also. And I've always thought of it as a community, and yet it's never been a community.
Yeah.
And I treated everybody like I cared about their well-being in the community. And I just found out, just in the last couple of years, no, Sheri, that's just you. You're not like other people. It is actually every man for himself, or every person for themselves. And so, but I've always believed, well then, but what if I can create a community and I can make community and I could hold space for everybody. Because I need a safe environment too. I work with PTSD, and that's something that we could talk about later on. But because I work with I don't want to say a compromise. I work with a nervous system that has her own sensibility, and I have a relationship with her, and that is something that we all understand now. We've all been traumatized. We are all traumatized by this. And so now we all have to get into a relationship with our trauma and our artistry. And so to me, the goal was, I noticed that there were issues in our community early on, and everybody has thought of me as the pop rock girl, and I'm not. I'm actually the problem solver. And the first problem that I saw that needed to be solved was that everybody was asking for popular music, but nobody knew how to sing it. That was just the first problem. Was like, well, I'll do it. I love pop music and I love my community and I care about them. And I'm also a musical theater performer, so I'll do it. And then it was like, we needed audition cuts. And I was like, well, I'll do it. Is anybody going to do it? I mean, and I'm doing pop music. So then, and now I'm on to something else, which I'll talk about later. But going back to your original question, it was that I wanted to be somebody who was an actor that also could be in service to the community by solving whatever problems could be solvable, because there were other ones that were not solvable, like at the time, the white supremacy that we all exist in, inside of the system. The system is white by default. It is a white supremacist system. I have been a part of that system, as cool and open as I am. I've still been in service to the system succeeding and people succeeding in the system. So, my goal with the book originally was to kind of like make life easier for everybody so their artistry can come out. And to have a community of people who are not born out of the vision of white supremacy, for all of those people to take the floor, because in pop music, everybody's welcome. Every key, every song, all of these feelings are universal. So we, come as you are. So it just seemed like all the right bits. And also I'm just, an open person who's healing. So I kind of brought all of that to the fore.
I love that.
And that's how it kind of started from there.
Yeah, that's really, really great. I love that. I think that's one of the things that kind of like, we say to young students all the time, when you're kind of training, that being a performer is about being a problem solver. That is the very essence of what we are as artists, right? You always are trying to find your way out of situations, whether that's on stage or artistic decisions that you have to make to navigate your way through a story or whatever, and to see you be able to use that in a very kind of practical way as well, as like almost like a very central part of your own artistry. It's not even just about you practically solving things for the sake of of it, it is part of you as an artist. I think that's really quite an inspiring message to kind of send on to lots of young performers that might be watching this as well. That you as an artist are, because there's a big thing in the media over here just now about, about art. Being an artist is not viable in the current climate, and it's about this constant message of realizing actually being an artist is what makes us viable in the current climate. And you're a testament to that, and so that's a really wonderful thing to see.
Thank you. I have to work on taking compliments because I'm so focused on sort of fixing the space, helping the space, that I have to also be vulnerable. So thank you, because you're pouring them in right now. It's like, Sheri, thank you. Because I believe that I found a way to use my artistry to be in service to the community. And we are more than our type. When we're born containing, and we develop, we contain multitudes as human beings. I have a lot of things going on inside of me, right? And so what happens is when we start looking at roles and characters and the way that they've been cast and the way that they've been identified, they've left everybody out. All the multitudes are left out.
Yeah.
And all that remains are the eating disorders that they give us and the mental health issues that they give us and the way that they keep us out of ourselves. So to me, it was really, really fun to find a place to put my artistry to be in service. And it was primarily because I had PTSD. Mm-hmm. And because as a human being with trauma in her body and nobody speaking about it, I mean, I have PTSD. I have complex PTSD, CPTSD, because I've actually had 2 near-death experiences as well. And I talk about that in the book, but also I come from a house of abuse. And so when you go from a house of abuse to a theater that exists in an abusive environment, no matter how much work you do on yourself, you're surrounded.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out 2 things, which is how to break the system of abuse in our industry. And I want to talk about how it's the same and how it's different in London and in here, or in Scotland or in here, because it's just so the system in New York and Broadway is built on other people's backs, and it is it's been harmful.
Yeah.
But I know that there's some things in London where you do way better than us about that stuff. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Yeah.
They're just, because I've always felt like this, but I've always felt like, Scott, I feel like we can serve each other in this way. There's places that you know how to do stuff that we don't, and we know how to do that you don't.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we're bad, that we don't know it because we're wrong. We could just use it from a source that understands it better than us.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
Anyway, long story long.
I agree.
I think what I love is that because we contain multitudes, we are multi-hyphenates. We have many talents and many gifts and can see things in many, many ways. And so first and foremost is taking you out of the type that you're right for and the role that you're right for, and going, who are you as a person? What interests you? What matters to you? What do you connect to? What is your gender expression? Want to explore? What's your sexuality? You want to explore? Let's use the material to find out what we're like, rather than going for the goal, which is something that we've never been and will never be and never want to be.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like this stuff is so fun, and that I feel like we can all tap into a part of ourselves and figure out how to play with other people and be creative while we're waiting for this industry to rebuild. And it just will naturally make us cooler people.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And there's actually a question on kind of what you're speaking about, actually. So this one comes from Tess, who's one of our first year students. And she says, thank you for giving us your time today. You spoke about PTSD. Would you mind elaborating on this in terms of, is there a way to use it as a strength in the way that you engage with your artistry? Or is it solely something we have to overcome?
Tess, that's like one of my favorite questions I've ever heard anybody ask. And I would say it's not something to overcome, but it's something to get into a relationship with and partner with in your creativity. To describe myself personally, how my PTSD would show up, because I have reached the moment where I could have died twice, which is a very odd thing for a person to have in their lives. I never crossed over to the other side. But I definitely went to the place in my brain and nervous system that goes to the part of your brain that does not usually go. People don't usually go there. So while I went there, and while I work with my PTSD, I sort of got, some people might call it hypervigilance. I sometimes will call it having my antennas are up. Makes me kind of psychic and intuitive and tuned in. It originally was there to help protect me so I don't die and so nobody hurts me. But what it did was it made me tap in and tune in. And that tapping in and tuning in made me tune into the people I'm with and tune into the script I'm reading or the music I'm listening to or other people's psychic energies. Or so what it did was this hypervigilance, this sort of high alert that I might have been put in, which was bad before because it always made me scared, when used correctly, can make you actually be a really good listener to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a way that you can turn it from something that you may act out of fear, but instead you can act out of listening and listening close. And being tuned into your own intuition and your own impulses. So I think that there's a place there that could actually, in you being used correctly, you could use it to tap in, and that's why I feel like sometimes I've had my finger on the pulse, catching things before they happen or right when they're happening because of that. So to me, that was me using something stinky and being able to do something cool with it. On the other end of the spectrum, if you're somebody who dissociates, if you're somebody who checks out, that's another thing that I also do very well as a person who has worked with PTSD. But that's another thing that happens. We check out, we go into depression, right? I know that that's something that a lot of us have had to do. We've had to go on autopilot. And
I've been there. Yep.
A way of kind of I'm going through all the motions. I'm going through class. I'm learning my songs. I'm doing my things, but I'm also checked out because this is too much. That place is a dangerous place because you're not connecting, but also depression. I'm depressed. I'm in a deep rest. There is something in there that needs to actually rest. And so I would encourage you to know that if you do feel that, to go, I'm going to let myself rest. I'm going to let myself be in a deep rest. And then let me make sure I still do this. And I do all these things and I'll eat this whole pizza by myself. I'll do whatever. But when I come back, I will let myself allow this deep rest because I need it. And so to me, I think that both of those things, if this answers your question, Tess, I think that if you can get into a relationship with it, then you don't have to get rid of it like it's a big, terrible thing. You get into a relationship with it and you use it, and then you can sing your song from the deep rest, and have it lift you up. Or if the song is like, pardon me if everybody's here because I'm going to want to thank you all for going, you can do it pulling your claws out of the ceiling and calming down, so that you can use the things that you go through and let them add depth of texture to your traditional musical theater stuff and your pop rock stuff. Because one of the things that I want to say, and thank you so much, Scott, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this kind of stuff with you, because it's swirling around in my spirit right now. But we are all over the map emotionally. And in any given day, I've cried 3 times and also laughed a lot and fallen asleep out of exhaustion and been mad as hell at any given moment of any day, very much like the weather. But I got to let the cloud pass and let the rain happen, let myself cry, let the weather change. But we also have a propensity to leave ourselves behind to get into the role, to get into the song, to get into a performative nature that we leave wherever we're at behind, because we have a responsibility to our craft and to the people that we're with, to pull our shit together.
Yeah.
And I respect and understand that, and you should always be professional, but may I invite everybody to actually start the song from wherever you're at emotionally in that moment, and not pull your shit together for us, but let your artistry start from where you're at, and let you into the song and see what happens there. We can't leave ourselves behind anymore. We've done it on social media. We're personas now. We're not even real people. So we got to get back in. And these are our ways back in. I hope that answered your question, Tess, but it's a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. I really love that idea. You know, I think, you know, there's a wonderful voice teacher at RCS, and you know, she always says, you know, she like it's, you know, just feel however you feel right now. If you feel shit, then you feel shit. Let's go from there. Let's not pretend that you're not feeling like that, you know. And it just makes so much more sense as an artist, because then everybody else is going, you need to speak the truth. You need to speak. Well, okay, but I'm not allowed to feel truthful right now, you know. So, like, and it's about when the second you marry those things up, and you're like, oh, okay, right, okay, yeah, it's just me, you know.
It's just me. Yeah. And also we have mixed feelings about everything. Like I'm really, you know, nothing about me paints in a primary color. So if we've got like, I don't really want to do this right now, but I know that I have to do this, you know, I have to move this plot. It all of a sudden just brings it, all of those, the multitudes we contain come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Scott, what is it like over there right now? I mean, how is studying? How is teaching? How is everybody's emotional state? What do you feel like? Because I know that,
So
different things going on.
I realize now, and I'm not saying this because I know there's like lots of them watching right now, but my students are absolute superstars. I mean, they really, really are superstars. And I am a bit like, kind of like mama hen sometimes, and I'm like, you know, protecting my chicks. And like, and often like, I forget that they're actually really willing to fly on their own. You know, and it's like, and during this pandemic, it's made me really realize that. Like, it's made me really realize that the tenacity of them as individuals is what makes them great artists. And so, kind of like, for every bit that it's been really tough sometimes teaching, the actual teaching of the skills has been easy online, because you can kind of teach that anywhere. You know, I think if you've got somebody that's willing to learn and you're willing to kind of teach them, then that bit's easy. But the main bit of kind of what holds us together is as a community of teachers and learners is the ability to hold each other up in different ways, and that's been hard online. And I'm sure that the people that are watching this will probably agree with that, you know. And it's like, it's been very interesting how some of the places have been very cloak and dagger about how they've approached the situation, and some of the institutions have been very open in the conversation, and I'm very kind of proud of the way that Associated Studios has dealt with it, because anytime we've come up with any kind of going, okay, we want to try this idea, want to change plans, what do you guys think? You're the ones that it's going to affect. So
you like what you're asking the people who need to be taken. What they need.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, I'm very proud of the way that we've dealt with it from that perspective. And you know, it's not every decision is always perfect, and we live in an imperfect world, but yeah, the main takeaway from this, and I hope that they are watching this, and I hope that they realize that I'm being really honest here, is that I'm so incredibly proud of all the young performers that are doing what they're doing now. I think back to when I was like 18 and I was at drama school and stuff, and I really struggled to find in my brain a situation that I would have dealt with this well, or anywhere near as well as some of the people that are in training right now. I would have been very close to giving up had I not already given up at this point. And so the very fact that they're all here and they're battling it just now, and they're winning, is incredibly impressive to me. So I'm really, really proud of them all from that. So, but I think we're doing well. Like, you know, it doesn't stop our artistry. It doesn't stop our skill building. Like, you know, and I'm really excited about theatre, actually. Like, I think actually in lots of ways is maybe the kick up the backside that we need culturally to kind of go, oh God, we really care about this, don't we? You know, like, because I know that we've always really cared about it, but like, you know, has the wider public. And I think now, like, you know, as Leo said in the meeting with the students, the second all of this gets lifted, like you're probably all your classes are going to be cancelled because Scott and I are, Leo and I are, we're just going to be in theaters all day, every day. We're not going to leave. We're just going to be watching as much theater as possible, and I think that's a kind of like, I know that loads and loads of people feel like that, so which I think is really, really great. So,
Yes.
but yeah.
And I want to also co-sign this document about how cool the young folks are right now, because that's like the folks that I hang out with the most are college kids, college kids, and then performers and their teachers, right? So to me, before this pandemic, there were some times where I had questions about young people. I had questions about them. I'm like, where is this world taking these young people right now? And are they going to be able to navigate it? And this pandemic has proven to me 35 million quadrillion times over that the young people are going to save us all.
Yep.
And not only that, it's because everybody is speaking their minds. They're talking about what they will no longer tolerate,
Yep.
what's unacceptable, how they need to be treated, how they want to be listened to. And to me, it's like, yes, babies, that's right. Say it, speak it. It's time. It's yours to do.
Yep.
And so it's so exciting because I'm literally watching the people that I was before the pandemic going, where are we going? How's this going to pan out? Me going, oh my God, it's going to pan out amazing. We're going to come out so much cool. This whole world is going to be cooler because of you.
Yep.
Because you will not tolerate anything less than the education you deserve, the love you deserve, right? The job that you deserve, the treatment you deserve, everybody.
Yeah.
And that we have an equitable, healthy playing space for all. No one will allow anything different, and fucking thank God. Because it's been shit.
Yep.
And folks like Scott and I are really lucky because we care, so we've been able to do cool work in a shitty environment, right? And I'm not saying the whole environment's shitty. There's lots of really cool people in the theater industry. Just a lot of the people with money have been doing it wrong.
Yeah.
They've been sending the wrong messages.
Yeah.
But we've been able to do cool stuff, but to see people catching up to us and surpassing us, and then being able to go, wait, I want to catch up with you. I want you to show me where to go. We get to follow you, young folks, now. And I'm, as a 48-year-old, I'm not like you, young folks, but like, I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I like where you're going.
Yeah, no, me too. I completely agree with you. Okay, I've got another question. So this comes from Alex, who is basically, he's actually an ex-student of ours, but he is back and he's now working with us in the office, and he's kind of the office manager at the moment, and he's doing a really great job. So he's very talented in many different areas. And he says, it's so refreshing to see lots of LGBT plus links in your book and the forward from so many people within the community. Do you think that the industry is changing its outlook to include more LGBT stories in musical theatre?
Yes. And if you want me to tell you where I think we're going to see a ton of it, this is also another place where I feel like my antennas were up, but it's going to be in musical theater, on film and television, because those are the places that take really big risks and there's not as much money involved. And we don't need those, 2,000 people in a seat in a theater every single night trying to drum up money. We can have a subscription to Hulu and watch musicals on television, and they will take the risk on the queer stories and the stories of people who are neurodivergent. They will take stories on who these stories are really about. And because all of these stories have been underground and they've been fighting to get a chance, whether it's a story of color or a story of ability or disability, it's been a fight to get through. And now all of the doors are going to open right up, and we'll be able to do the theater that we need to do, which can reach everybody in every house sitting on their couch.
Yep.
Because theater tickets are too expensive anyway.
Yep. Absolutely.
Can't afford to go. So to me, that's where all the great queer stories are going to come out, in the places that take risks on queer stories, on stories that tell the truth about people. And it has not been Broadway. The only one so far that I felt like has taken that level of a risk was a show right before the pandemic, and it's called A Strange Loop. Written by Michael R. Jackson. And it is probably the most honest story that I've ever seen told in musical theater in my whole life. And so when we come back, we'll be bathing in that show. But on the most part, we need a good dose of creative reality.
Yeah.
And the TV and movies will allow, they will encourage it.
Yep. Yep.
That to me is yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah, and also like what I really love about that as well is you see lots of kind of the kind of more indie writers and stuff and stuff coming through because Netflix has enough money to throw something at it to see if it sticks. And I think that that's, you know, all of those writers who would otherwise be considered fringe writers because the subject matter is not commercial, inverted commas, that actually that's where it's going to get. I agree. I think it's very exciting to see. Yeah.
Me too. And so what I love about this too, hold on, I just want to make sure that I have you plugged in. I hope everybody's enjoying what we're talking about because like these are the places that to me I'm getting inspired about and excited about while we're kind of sitting here. The last thing that I want to share you, which I feel like is my next I have a bunch of things that I'm doing, but the thing that I think is another problem that I got to solve was that was auditioning for musical theater on camera. And that was in May of 2019. I would hope that everybody has caught a whiff of some of the musicals on television that we've had. Jesus Christ Superstar Live was awesome. There was Grease Live, The Wiz Live, Sound of Music. So, and then we also have Glee, and then we also have Zoe's Amazing Playlist, or whatever that one's called. So there's a lot of places. Oh, and that Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. So there's a lot of places where there was musical theater on television anyway. It hadn't really, really, really caught on, but it was there. So in and around like May 2019, I went to it like the SAG. I mentioned this in the book. I went to like a SAG after panel and asked a bunch of the actors and directors from these TV musicals, talk to me about the on-camera technique. How are we handling musical theater on camera? I want to know, like, how are these people getting these parts? And they said, well, you just have to get in the room. And I was like, this is so like exclusive. I could vomit.
Yep.
So if I can't get in the room, I don't have a shot at this, even if I know exactly what to do. And I can tell you that I'm an on-camera actor that understands the camera and the eye and the relationship and all that. And I can't even get, so anyway, I pulled my face off and then I left and then I went, I'll do it. So in 2019, I started teaching acting on camera for musical theater. And it really is catching on so beautifully because we're stuck in our natural habitat. So why not exist as a character in our natural habitat? And if we're doing traditional musical theater, then it's that character that you are embodying, and put them on a couch and put them in a scenario and put them in a world, put them in the kitchen, in the mirror, in the bathroom, pondering their life, looking out a window. Then I'm watching you on television or in a movie, which is what we're doing. We're sitting in our houses watching Netflix. So now we're watching TikTok and we're watching Instagram videos. And so this idea that I had of, wait a minute, an audition cut is a perfect size TikTok video and it's a perfect size Instagram video.
Yep.
What if we took an audition cut, then staged it in our house with cameras and lighting, and you just need like a gooseneck. It doesn't need to be fancy, but we are our own selves existing in this material. And we take you into the time, or we take you into the world. And so I started playing like that. And so now that is how I play, is that all of our work is on camera technique, because I do believe that we won't be going to open calls and ECCs, and we will not be going to offices for those first or second calls anymore.
Yep.
They can save all that money and just say, send in a video, and who's going to know how, but somebody who actually studies the time and studies the world and studies the language and studies the culture and understands your relationship to the culture and stages a little MTV video.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So to me, that's where that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And so it's fun. I just want to keep solving problems.
I love that. You're totally speaking to my heart as well, because it's something I'm in the middle of organizing here. And I think the difference is, though, is that because we spent a lot of time speaking to lots of the casting teams and stuff over here to kind of, to kind of ask them, and they're kind of, you could just tell the reservedness of them going, oh, but we don't want anything to change. But we know that we have to get people to video things. But can it not just be like a regular old stuffy edition? And we're going, no, we're going to give you something better, and then you can just tell us that it's good. How about that? And they're kind of going, okay then, like, we'll see. You know, there's kind of, you can see like this slight resistance to this new world. But we will get there. We will get there.
No, you will. And you know, it's interesting because I remember having a conversation with Rachel, our wonderful peer and friend,
who used to actually teach with us at Associated Studios, and then got pregnant, and so took some time off. Yeah.
Yes, the baby is Leo is scrumptious. Hey Rachel, we had that conversation because I said, can you tell me about when you're in the audition room? This is because I saw Rachel right before the pandemic as well, in the winter. And I said, can you tell me about the audition process? And she said, yes, you have like 2 minutes to sing whatever you want, you know? And I said, so what happens? And she says, well, then we just sing 2 minutes of a pop rock song. And I'm like, that goes back and forth through time with an extra verse and an extra chorus that goes back. Like, why not do a 1 minute cut of one song that does one thing, and then do another 1 minute cut of another song that does something entire, like a Regina Spektor's, like a Maggie Rogers song and a Janis Joplin song.
Yeah. So
they go, what? How? And to use your time wisely. And I remember her saying, they are like, well, I don't understand, you know? And it's true. It's because when something has worked for a long time, it takes however many days to change a habit. You just have to show people how much better it is, and then they change their mind. So that's our job as artists, is to go, no, trust me, I understand this. You're gonna learn so much more.
You've kind of actually also answered the next question I was going to ask anyway, but there might be more, so let me read it out anyway. So this comes from Lisa, who's one of our master students. She says, thank you so much for doing this talk with us. I have so many of your audition cuts in my folder. I think it's especially great that you've founded the RTA Coalition and including different voices on the board. My question is, what is something you think the UK theatre industry could learn from or take from the US theatre industry and vice versa?
So thank you. That is such a fantastic question, because again, this was one of those things that I've always thought, why aren't we in a relationship with each other? Why? You know, because in my mind, I've always been like, the acting is the best in London. It's better in London. The acting is better. The theater is better. Period. End of discussion. I want to be the Dame Judi Dench of musical theater in America. That's what I want. You know, and I've always felt that way, that I just feel like your training is better and your performances are better. And that to me, like, has been where it's been better. And then in conversing with a lot of your collaborators, I have found out that also your inclusion efforts at school are so much better than ours, that you have when you're the college institutions, if I remember this correctly, the college institutions have your teachers learning intimacy coaching, or you have intimacy coaches at the college, like they actually care about these things. I think I even remember hearing something about some kind of policy that if you run a theater, that everybody has to sign some kind of document that's like, if I'm an asshole, I get fired, period. End of discussion. I talk to you really bad, I get fired. I'm held responsible for it. This is how we have a theater. Am I going in the right direction here?
It depends on the institution, of course. I think,
but you're doing it at all. You're doing it.
Yeah.
And we are not.
Mm-hmm.
So again, these are places where I feel like, oh my God, some of your theaters are having conversations like this, where all of our theaters are sexually assaulting people and harming people and fat shaming people and, you know, calling people a problem if they're working with a disability, you know, they don't care, and we're screaming into the abyss, you know. And so to me, I look at you and I know that there have been people who have said, yeah, well, we have tricky issues, or, you know, our union sucks. They don't care about it, you know, so we could help you with your union. But I do think across the board, it seems to me that in the acting and in the inclusion efforts, you just kind of know, like, you got to have a safe space or you're not going to get anywhere here.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about London, right? Wouldn't you agree that your theater community kind of just like wants to encourage, it has always encouraged the safest space possible. And if they need to grow, they still need to grow, but it's been a part of the culture.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and certainly, you know, I've guess I've been very lucky in that my teaching has led me to kind of work with lots of different kinds of performers. You know, I've worked in more dance-based colleges, and you know, I was the head of singing and music at Lambda, which is a very, very classical acting-based school. Where actually one of the top intimacy coaches is a movement teacher, or was a movement teacher there, you know, and really kind of wonderful work that was being done there in many, many different ways. I think the yeah, so I think you're right. I think there is a bit of a kind of a thing about creating a safe space, and like, and I remember when I was at drama school, and the very, very first day at drama school, the teachers, the head of the course said, leave your shit at the door when you come in. And I can remember being a little bit put out by that. And then, like, afterwards, somebody brought it up and they were like, you know, like, what do you mean by that? Because that, you know, like, we can't leave our shit at the door. And he says, no, it's not so much that I want you to kind of like forget about all your issues, but I want you to bring them to us in a space that you feel comfortable in. So don't feel like you need to bring in all your trauma into every lesson. And we all went, oh, okay, this is not what we thought it was originally. And
I
so,
wouldn't have interpreted that either,
yeah.
but I like the meaning of it.
Yeah.
Which
you know, like
artistry,
yeah,
and leaves the stuff that interferes with your artistry at the door.
yeah, you know, and I even remember the amazing God, I would love to get him on, but I don't think he has internet. And the amazing Ian Ricketts, who there's like a bust of his head in GSA. He was like such a legend, and he used to do things that, like, you know, I look back on now and I'm like, that was just so genius, and things like, so we used to play these games where we'd throw beanbags at each other and look at people in the eye and say their name as you throw them something. And what he used to do was he deliberately scented them all with lavender oil, and his office smelled of lavender oil, and the whole game was about like trust and safety and connection and opening up, so that because he was the pastoral tutor, that when you had an issue, you would go to his office and you would smell the lavender oil, and it would take you back to that moment when he made you feel safe in this. And it was, you know, it's things like that, like, you know, these kind of people of absolute genius who create these conditions in these situations, you know. And I'll never forget things like that. And that's one of the things I have to say that this side of the industry is very, very good at. We're very good at looking out for each other.
Yes, and that is what I feel like we could get from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because, like I said, it's every man for himself. You know, the white women in the industry compete with me, and I'm like, why you compete? We should all be taking hands right now and helping this place get better. Why are you competing with me?
Yeah.
You know? And so to me, like, we were just raised that it was every man for himself. And so then I asked myself, is this really the ultimate? I mean, is Broadway really the ultimate if this is what we're doing? And so, you know, I love hearing that and thinking of what we could bring over there. I mean, pop rock, I'll come over.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I can't think of anything else other than that is bringing pop rock into the training over there, because you've got such great singers and you do so many pop rock musicals. But it seems like they just still feel a little bit separate, and they're siblings.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I'm just probably just inviting myself over there because I want to come. And the truth is,
well, you've already been invited, because Leontine has just said that she'd love to meet you and she's going to make it happen. So there you go.
Well, my dream was actually to come and stay for a whole year and teach all the teachers and play, and then study from the good acting teachers.
Yeah.
And grow as an actor and take care of my teacher friends. But I think also, I don't know. I feel that what we can give, I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. We're in such trouble having to rearrange our furniture about who we've been and what we've been to everybody, how we've all treated each other, that, you know, I think right now I think that we are all in a space where our friends of color are right now going, I'm holding you accountable. Stay here, don't move. Let's do this together. And so right now we're in those beginning stages, and I find it very exciting because we're starting to watch the theaters replace themselves with, people of color who are actually in leadership positions now, But I'm sad that everybody's had to be forced into that and has gotten away with it for this long and have done this much damage, and that this is the ultimate, right? So when we come back, my feeling or my guess about traditional musical theater is that we're going to be living more in a world where who's right for the character? What's the essence of this character? So that means that it's post-gender. That means that the song comes in several keys. And that means that whoever is right for the role gets to audition for, be called back for, and potentially play the role.
That's exciting.
Isn't it? Because I feel like does it feel like it's going in that direction over there also?
I think that there's certainly the kind of the conversation and the desire and the will is there. Whether I feel like there's movement here yet or not, I'm not quite sure. But we're there's what's really nice is that so there was a very, I'm going to kind of do this in the most diplomatic way possible. There was a very well-known casting director talking to a group of students from a very well-known school. And this well-known school were talking about the issue of diversity and representation, and it was around about kind of March, April time, so it was just after the George Floyd situation, and they said, and basically these students turned to this casting director and said, what are you doing to make the situation better as a white casting director? And this casting director said, oh, well, like if the best person for the job was somebody in a wheelchair, I would cast them in the role. And they said, well, why has nobody in a wheelchair ever been cast in a role then in any of your shows? Are you trying to tell us that you've never met a talented person in a wheelchair? And these students were literally holding this casting director kind of hostage in this room until he answered for some of the questions that were actually really prominent in kind of their minds in this kind of new world. And kind of like, perhaps the delivery was kind of a bit harsh and sometimes, but actually the message was very, very clear. And I think the message seems to be very clear from young people in this industry and from the movers and shakers. But like you said, it's the people with money. It's those people that make the decisions. Those are the ones that need to make the real change. So
they don't realize that if they give their money over, they will make more money. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It is an act of giving to the universe. When you give to the universe, you get back. Giving to the universe is letting go of the grip you have of being an important, powerful person. And some of that also has to do, just because you and I are both queer, I think it's a whole important part of the conversation. But first of all, knowing that a lot of the folks who lead our industry are queer, cis, white men. So if we even take a second and think about what it has been like for a queer cis white man to have to survive in the world just being queer.
Yeah.
That there's so much trauma in there that they then brought to the industry, and that trauma unhandled, unaddressed, then gets put on people of color, then gets put on people who are built differently, then gets put on women, then gets put, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so to me, it's almost like we have to even look at the mental health issues that are behind white supremacy and that are behind race. It's a mental health issue.
Yeah.
And that to me, I think is really where we're at right now, which is why, mental health and my PTSD and us all having it now and having to work with it is so crucial to be in the conversation with about too, which is that this bad behavior, this harm that we're all doing to each other is because we all have our mental health has been compromised.
Yeah.
And we're all acting out of trauma on each other. And if we could set some kind of soft middle space for us to leave our trauma outside the door and get with the person that you're with and listen to their needs, we could actually make some changes. I have a question for you. And this is purely and again, I've been lucky enough to be blessed with having friends who live in London, but I have not spent enough time over there to get to know your culture and how different it is from being a New York Jew in New York, right? Now I'm in Connecticut, but for us, culturally, we are obnoxious, loud, right? Forceful, abrasive sometimes, shrill. We say how we feel, we fight. And my assumption or my understanding about folks from over where you are, you're a little bit more reserved emotionally than we are about the things that upset you, and handle them in a more diplomatic way than we typically do. Is that accurate? Or do you just dodge things because you're able to stay in silence?
We're good dodgers. And I don't know if we necessarily handle things in a more reserved manner, but British people are very good at passive aggression.
Passive aggression. That's what it is. Okay, we're just aggressive.
Yeah.
We're passive aggressive. Wow. And so what does that look like for you with your students, or people are having stuff happen? What happens?
Well, it's so weird because it's so funny that you bring this up, because actually I was kind of having a bit of a go at this in another context, and like I actually prefer the more American straight up conversation about things. Being Scottish and Glaswegian, like that's kind of where that abrasiveness comes from, is from the Scottish immigrants who moved from like war-torn Scotland at the time over to America and took all of that anger and kind of front-ended like personality with them. That's where I come from. But it's funny because I do sometimes feel like a foreigner living in England, because it is because I think there's a bit like America, depending on where you come from, it's actually very different culturally, on the East Coast and the West Coast, for example. It's very, very different, and it's kind of the same. There's kind of in a much smaller scale in the United Kingdom, but one of the things that definitely draws us all together is that we like to kind of have a kind of passive aggressive argument, and then all go and have a pint together afterwards.
Oh my God, that's amazing!
So that's kind of, that tends to be kind of like how it works. So note sessions in theatre tend to be quite awkward situations, and then everybody kind of goes and gets drunk and forgets about it. Really,
that's all about it. Yeah, no, we linger, we hold grudges.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I've got loads more questions, Sheri, so I'm going to try and get to them. But before I do that, I'm just going to just let everybody see that they can buy a copy of Rock the Audition, the new version. Yeah, so it's a digital version that you can buy on Amazon. It's the first revised second edition.
Yeah.
So you need to remember that and make sure you don't buy one of the older ones. I mean, feel free to buy the older ones if you want, but the new one is so incredibly awesome. I read it the day that it came out. I advise that if you don't have it yet, go and get it. It's literally like £8 or something on Amazon. It's really not expensive at all. But it is worth its weight in gold. I mean, it really is. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful piece of text. And if you are a performer, or you're just a human being that just wants to learn how to be a better human being, go and buy this book. It is really, honestly, truly wonderful. But I absolutely had to. Yeah, I just absolutely had to share that with everybody there. Okay, so I've got one which is probably actually the answer is probably go buy the book, and you can probably find out about this in the book. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. This is from Paul, who's one of our MAs. He says, a question for you is, in pop and rock auditions, how do you navigate the lack of full band and rhythm section for songs that rely on them so heavily? Is it a question of finding songs that were originally written on piano, or is there a way to navigate through it?
So it's so interesting that you asked that. I think it's a fantastic question. I've been arranging audition cuts on Music Notes. I think I'm in my 4th year arranging audition cuts. And so our whole idea, right, is that we want to pare down the essence of the band, the vibe, the groove, the quality of the band in an arrangement that's on piano that allows the piano player to express themselves as well, and leaves room for the piano, because the person who's playing piano with you is a musician, and they're the music that they're playing is your scene partner, right? So that's why it's really, really tricky, because the goal for us is to make that whole band arrangement and put it into a piano to give you enough, right, to do that with. My suggestion would be, though, to know that there are basically three things that you want to pay attention to, and I love this question. When you get, I'll just use an example with an audition, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I'm just picking it because it's such a great song, and I talk about it all the time. But there is the part you sing. That's one thing. That's usually what everybody just listens to, just what they're singing. Then there's what the track is playing. So if it's my accompaniment, it's the Sitting on the Dock of the Bay track that myself and a Broadway music director, who's a rock MD, plays, right? So this is the piano version of the groove. So you also want to listen to what that's doing, because that's your ultimate scene partner, right? Just the piano. But then you want to go back to the original recording and go, what is the bass doing? What are the drums doing? What's the guitar doing? Are there any horns? What are they doing? And you want to learn how to feel those other instruments in your body, in your voice. You want to actually live in this song with just a piano and feel like the whole band is there, because you've studied what the band is doing to make that song feel like that. And so then you could live it when you're just with the piano. I think that answers the question, right?
Yeah.
So it's not do a heavier handed song. It's almost like, let the song pare itself down to what it is and let the piano player do what they're doing, and you live the band.
Yeah, absolutely. And I often say to students, I think it's so important as well to like the one thing that we need to make sure we always do is train our ears. Like really, like you say, listen more to more things, like listen more frequently to those things. If you want to feel every pulse of every micro beat of every micro note and harmonic in a band, go listen to Earth, Wind and Fire. Go and listen to, like, that, especially that music from the 70s and the 60s, and when it was mostly just kind of like live recordings and stuff like that from the 50s, and when those people were playing for their lives. And it's like, just take the time to listen and just appreciate and love and care for it. I think it's so important. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you're hanging with people and their families and their ancestors. I always kind of make not a joke about this, but this is sort of like part of what I teach, is that we have a lineage of music that we can get to know and be with. So if we love Beyonce, who's the granddaughter, right? Because she sings R&B, rap, rock, gospel, blues, jazz, everything, right? She's the granddaughter. Her musical mother is disco. Her musical grandmother is Diana Ross or Etta James, Jackie Wilson. The aunts and uncles are jazz, blues, and gospel. I want to know that you've hung out with the whole family.
Yeah.
Right? And that when it's time to hang out with the aunties and the uncles, that you can get with them in the way they are. And that's why you're welcome in the family to hang out, because you know who you're with. You're with the grandparents, you're with the parents, you're with the child. So to me, that's how we figure out, how to live in music, is like, who am I with right now and what's their lineage?
Yeah, I love that. I really love that.
Yeah.
So I've got one here on Twitch. And this is from one of my students who's watching on Twitch just now. He says, "Hi Sheri, I love your energy. Scott mentioning the casting director being pressed on casting someone in a wheelchair. What do you think theatres around the world can do better to be more inclusive to physically disabled and neurodivergent performers?"
Such a great question. People leave people with disabilities and who are neurodivergent, they leave them out altogether. It's like they haven't been a part of the diversity conversation. And it's been really, really unfortunate, because again, in the city, we only had one audition space that was accessible, just one. None of the theaters were accessible. They were accessible for audiences, but not for actors. And it took really one of my students and dear friends is Ali Stroker, Tony winner, amazing, amazing performer, right? Who's in a chair. And it it took somebody like Allie to be able to go, I want you to build me a dressing room right over here, right on the side of the stage. And they were like, done. And so the thing is that what needs to happen now is not to have Allie do that work, because Allie won a Tony and there wasn't even, she had to sit on the side of the stage because there wasn't even a ramp belt, because she could have possibly won a Tony. You see where I'm going here? Is so what we need to do while we are down is go, okay, who is in this palette of paints that we are going to paint this new theater with? Who's in this palette? What are we working with? What are the intersections? How do we prepare for everybody? How do we prepare for everybody so that when somebody walks in, we can, by either reading their resume or opening up a conversation, or, you know, some disabilities are invisible disabilities, some are visible, so who knows, but that we can come in and say, hey, I'm working with this thing, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that London has better than us, is that you actually talk to people when you audition them. We don't talk to anybody. We say, hi, how are you? Headshot, resume. If you know them, it's like, so good to see you. So a little bit of like social, so what are you gonna sing? You know, and it's bringing the humanity back in. So our job is to do our homework and go, what are people really like? And how can we give them the materials, the space? And really what it is having auditions with those people and having those people come in and watch you audition and coach you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's putting all the people who have been denied this proper space, the leadership position, to say, pay me and I will show you how to make this space. Go do your homework and also pay me and I'll show you how to do this.
Yeah, I love that. You're right, 100% right. I love that. I've got a question here from Sarah, who's one of our part-time students, and she just asks, how can a performer leave their mark in an audition?
That's my favorite. Again, another one of my favorite questions I've ever heard. It's always point of view. It's always your point of view on the world. That's how you leave your mark, is how do you see the world? And how do you see the world not the same as the character, but different than the character with the same truth? I always look, like I've always said, because of the way I am, I live slightly left of center of reality, which means it is just as honest. It's just not on the nose how I see things. It's the truth. And popular music is the same thing. It's the truth for everybody. So if Scott and I both listen to the same song, and this song is about Scott's dog to Scott, but it's about my mom to me, we're both right. And so because of that, the world is open for interpretation. There are rules you have to play by. What time period is the song, and what style is it? What's the intention of what's the message in the song? And being loyal to those things. Everything else, game on. Game on. And so to me, how do you leave your mark? You reinterpret that material that has always been interpreted that same way. And don't do it to be funny. Don't do it to be clever. Do it to reinvent from your point of view. Point of view, VIEW, is also point of you. How do you see things? How I see things is different from how other people see things. And so again, we're both right, but it's different. So an example of, you know, a point of view, a lot of the stuff that I like to do is like comedy work. And I have a class called POV where I take funny songs and actually work with people and make them actually funny, because some songs that are funny songs aren't funny unless, sorry, now I'm just, everybody's like, are you available now? It's like, hold on.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm so happy to be here. I'll just tell them to hold on. I just didn't even know how long we were going to go, but I'm excited to be
It's okay.
here.
I'm so sorry because it was only meant to be an hour. So if you
no, let me just tell. Give me 2 seconds.
No
and
worries.
Give me a few. Yeah.
So while you're doing that, I just want to kind of also, just if you're watching this, I'm just going to advertise one more thing. We also do courses at Associated Studios, full and part-time courses. And one of our courses is the Musical Theatre Performance course, which is an MA, full Master of Arts, which is 1 year and 2 year pathways. And we are taking auditions now. The year's filling up quite well with really awesome people. So if you would like to take part and become one of our new MAs, then please make sure that you get in touch soon so that we can audition you and see your wonderful skills and talent using all of this wonderful advice that Sheri's giving us today. So really great. Okay, so I'm going to rattle through some of these questions then you can go.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So Victoria, who's actually one of my students at Royal Conservatoire of Scotland who's tuned in, has said, your Reshape Yourself tape challenge was so fun. It took me right out of my comfort zone and I'm better for it. Thank you for your advice. So that's super lovely.
You're welcome. That's in the book now too. We put all that technique that we played with on camera. It's all in the book now so that you can practice.
And then Ilona said, hi Sheri, you're an absolute inspiration and I can't thank you enough for talking to us. I'm smiling from ear to ear. I wanted to ask, as feminist myself, I went through some sexist moments and I was wondering, what do you do to deal with these sexist remarks from the industry?
Report them.
Yeah.
Walk away and report them. Don't handle them yourself. And even if you've got to go to a friend who is of the same gender of that person and say, you're going to go call this person right now and you're going to say, hands off, don't touch, no good. And do you have an apology for this person? And if you don't, you're hearing it from me. Stay the fuck away, don't touch. And we need to be champions for each other around this stuff. And if you see something, say something. And I think that you have to be able to also speak up and speak out loud and don't think you're a problem. Like, say it out loud. If somebody grabs you, if somebody does anything, say it out loud. And I think if you say it to an authority figure and they handle it right away, great. And if they push it aside, say it out loud.
Yeah.
You know, you got to take care of number one.
Agree. And like I said, I'm Mother Hen, remember? So, like, you know, get me involved and I deal with this the Scottish way.
I know, I will bitch
right?
slap anybody.
100%. Nobody touches my babies. Nobody touches my singing babies. No, I totally agree. No, but I think you're right. And I think it's super interesting what you're saying about how, you know, you say that women compete against you, other white women. And actually, that's totally a moment where actually, if you came together, you know, that power that you would have, you know, amazing. How amazing that would be.
You know, casting a spell on the universe, you know, to be better. But, you know, what can I say? I'm not going to be like that. And so, you know, when I put my pillow down at night, I'm like, I'm just responsible for my goodness to other people and the universe will take care of me.
So, So basically, I'm going to end with two more questions.
Sure.
So one of them comes from Charlotte, who's one of our MAs, and she asks, will the new revised edition be coming out on paper?
It will. You know what? We wrote it so fast, and we really just opened it up to having it be a community-based book. So what we wanted to do is get it healthy for people to read right now. And then we're going to take the spring and go back in and bring more voices in, elaborate on things. And when we feel like, okay, now it's time to make a hard copy. The thing is, it's going to keep changing anyway, right? Because we built it to change with the climate. We built it to change with the culture, to change with young people's needs and to change with the world. So that's kind of why we wanted to keep it digital, is because we could keep changing it. But we will probably make a hard copy just because it's fun to have it in your hands and to smell a book and touch a book. We will, but I think we'll do it in a time where we're like, let's just let this time breathe now for a little while, you know, maybe when we're all back with each other and everybody feels like the book has, in the moment, that the book has been communicated through multiple lenses, and we feel great about that. Like, we're bringing our Asian friends in now because it's a crucial lens, and it's a lens that has been left out even since, you know, when Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So we've been focusing on Black lives, not Asian lives. So we want to make sure that the Asian lens is loud and clear in our book. And so until we feel that way, I think it's going to stay digital, but that's cool. It'll always keep changing.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
I love
And then,
you.
oh, I love you too. This has been so much
Yeah.
fun. This has been so much fun.
You're
I've
amazing, and thank you for this
Oh,
platform.
you are so welcome. You can honestly come on anytime, every Tuesday. Come on every Tuesday. We'll just do this every Tuesday. I have one more question. This comes from me. So you are like I really love obviously following all the kind of things that you are constantly doing, and I know that you have been really integral on helping develop kind of like a wonderful like platform for people who kind of like to kind of like help with like mental health and stuff as
Yep.
well.
No
Um,
problem.
and like I think it'd probably be really useful if there was any links and stuff. I could totally like send all of that over and put it on the comments of the chat and stuff so that people can see that.
Sure,
um
and it's on my website too if
yeah.
anybody's interested.
um
All that's there.
great, but my question for you is what's the next problem you've got to solve?
My own, my life, my life. I have I got diagnosed with CPT. I just got finally diagnosed when I was 40. And I didn't even really get to properly heal my nervous system because I was in the trauma of the industry. So really my next project is, hey, Sheri, who are you? Not as a teacher, not as a giver, not as a channeler of whatever's upstairs, but actually like as a human and as an actor, as a girlfriend, as a daughter. There's a lot more personal stuff and a lot of healing that I want to do while we're also helping the industry heal. So I'm actually turning my attention in, and my next project is myself.
Great, that's so good. And do you know what though? I think that in itself is really inspiring and something that like, you know, that I didn't see as a young performer. I didn't see that kind of humanity from the people that were teaching me. I saw lots of humanity from them in other ways, but that kind of like, you know, that kind of fallibility, that kind of that humanity that kind of that makes them go, oh, yeah, you're a flawed individual, and like and being able to kind of take that time to work on yourself that A, you deserve, but B, is actually really important for others to see, and kind of like make them ask themselves the question, is that something I need to do for me too? Because
I
the
need to
answer
do
is
that.
always yeah.
Yeah, because the more you invest in yourself, the better you are for other people.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of excited to see what's next for me as a person, and how great I can be for other people when I come back out, and I'm like, all right, the cup is full, what runneth over now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I also think that that's great for everybody because this has been so traumatizing. So spend some time and take care of yourself and reinvent yourself and what this all means to you, and find out what matters to you the most and act from that versus succeeding in the industry. Because the industry, what is the industry?
Exactly. Yeah.
What is it? But who are you? That's the most important. And what do you want to share with us about yourself?
Yeah, I love that. So on behalf of everybody, I just want to say thank you so much. Literally, I'm looking just at like just a whole barrage of people just going, oh my God, like we thank you so much. Like you're amazing. You've been amazing to listen to, so inspiring. Like it's barrage of people just saying thank you. So on behalf of all of them, I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. It's so great to be with you.
I just
And
always love having a conversation with you. I always think it's just really great. And
special. We're lucky to have you.
oh, thank you. So just before I go, I just want to say to everybody, next week we have two people coming on to chat to me. We have the amazing Tessa Berkelmans, and we have the amazing Eugene Huang, who are both going to be talking about mental health and about being yourself as a person in the world during a pandemic. So I want to just take this opportunity to say, make sure you tune in next week at 6 p.m. and I'll see you there. So thank you so much, and take care, everybody.